And they said, would you like to be the first leader with branches worldwide? And I looked behind me, see who they were talking to.
Narlly was an amazing breath of fresh air. Kind of on a whim, we went to Nicaragua and did something we had never done before, which we just collected a bunch of meetings, potential meetings, and we went down without a single person in mind. We were just gonna meet with as many people as we possibly could. So we were driving literally all over the country. And she was somebody had randomly said, hey, while you're in Nicaragua, maybe you should stop by and see, Narlly Solano Méndez. Maybe she'll know someone who could be a good fit. And so, she was one of probably 12 people on the list. She was like number 8. We had traveled for about a week. It was like a Thursday or something. We drive to see her, we're messaging her saying, hey, we'll be there in a couple hours. We show up.
So first of all, Dan walks out of his car along with his team, somebody with a camera, and it just looks so out of the ordinary in Nicaragua. And Dan's really tall and doesn't look Nicaraguan by any means. And so it was quite the experience. But once you sit down and talk with this team, and you get to see the people that have such a heart to follow Jesus and do it through Christian entrepreneurs, I thought, man, that would be amazing to be connected to these people.
She asked us, well, what is branches? And we could tell her the concept, but we couldn't give examples because she was really the first.
I've always been searching for ways to get connected to smart people that are doing great things, and see what rubs off. And I was thrilled.
She's got this school that you can kind of see from a distance when you kind of drive up. And then she opens the door, we go in, the gate, we see the school. And then as we're walking and she's kind of showing us stuff, the school just keeps on going. Like at first it's like 1 or 2 buildings, and then you're like, oh wait, there's more? Then there's like 4 or 5 buildings, and then there's like more. There's like, oh no, there's like 7 or 8. Now there's 10 buildings. Now there's a whole gym. Now there's like a courtyard. Now there's like a computer room. I mean, this thing just keeps on going. And you realize, holy cow, she's been at this for 15 years. She had to have had a building project literally every single year for 15 years. And then you start to see the impact, the number of students that she had, the multi-generational impact, the parents that lives are changed, the staff that all live in this really small community, but everybody's impacted by the decisions that she's making in this school, this Christian school.
Someone told me when they met Dan and they heard the whole story, they said, that's a really neat thing they're doing. I don't think they're gonna pick you. I think they're probably gonna find some other business leader. And I thought, oh, it's not gonna happen for me.
And I remember thinking to myself, man, if she ran like a business, this would be a legit leader. But fortunately she doesn't lead a business. And so I just kind of said, hey, I guess this is the end of that, but if you know anybody, let me know. Went back and actually called Brian and said, hey, met this amazing person. If she had a business, she would be a perfect fit. And he's like, hey, she's leading an organization. I was like, yeah, it's having a massive impact in their community. Yeah, they generate revenue, don't they? I'm like, yeah, they do. And he's like, I think that's good enough for me.
And yet months later, I get another email and they said, hey, we're coming back down, we're gonna talk again. And we had a wonderful conversation. And I remember sitting at a coffee farm across the table from Dan and Brian Miller. And they said, hey, if we were gonna ask you to be a part of Branches, what would you ask from us? And I said, well, teach me, train me, give me opportunities to learn and grow. And they said, would you like to be the first leader with branches worldwide? And I looked behind me, see who they were talking to, because I couldn't believe that I was going to be able to be part of something so special. And I was thrilled. For a long time, I had said, I feel like an island. Now, in Nicaragua, even though I'm Nicaraguan, I had grown up in the States. And so for a long time, I felt very isolated from missionaries and people that came from the US or internationally. They would be in the capital city. I wasn't connected to any of them. And I kept asking God, send me connections. I need to find someone that can give me ideas and I can grow from. And so I think that was one of those things that I didn't have to think too much about, because it was something I was longing for.
I think when we first met her, I could tell she was different, like for sure. And I think in a community like that, and this happens all over the world, when you have people who are very, very high capacity leaders, they are almost always isolated. They're abnormal. So they're almost always just kind of by themselves. And we could tell that with her, like, you know, her ability to articulate, you know, her ability to build, her ability to lead, her understanding of like her community and what she actually was doing in the community. And I think that was probably the first time we didn't get that sense of skepticism. And then after that, honestly, we actually figured out the formula, like how to speak to people about it in a way that piqued interest as opposed to kind of caused more questions and pushback.
One of the really neat things was, after being the first leader, to just see who came next. Oh, then there was a guy from Costa Rica, and then from Jamaica and the Dominican Republic, all different roles, all different jobs, and yet equally excited, smart, wise people that wanted to impact their country.